Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. So just a brief introduction to our mindful community. I've been really grateful to Laurence and Carlos over several years. I gave a little mindfulness talk to one of their communities ages ago, and they've supported me a lot in community building. So for us to be able to be here, I learned so much from the way they work with their community and support the many hundreds and thousands, maybe not hundreds of thousands, but thousands of community members that they have as part of their network. And I'm going to pass it over to them to share to maximize their time. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you very much, Shamash. Yes. Yeah, hundreds of thousands. That's what we want. Millions of people doing happiness in business and work. Thanks a lot, really, for organizing. This is amazing. You're just like some serial online event organizer these days. It's just so awe-inspiring, and the quality of people who got on. And I loved Matt's session. I kind of feel like we don't need to do anything. Matt's done it.
Yeah.
He said everything we need to say
now, I think.
Okay. Before we start, I think one of the interesting things that would be curious to hear from, and it's great, you've got like 140 odd people on here, which is fantastic, if a bit intimidating. What I would love to hear from you all is how you define happiness, because that's one of the topics that we want to tackle today. Is like, what does happiness mean to you? So we'd love to see people's ideas on the chat, because we love to interact rather than just talk about stuff. We'd love to just hear what you all consider happiness, and given your mindfulness people, I'm hoping that aligns with what we're going to be talking about. I don't know, what can you see, Laurence? Is there anything that resonates?
I think, joy in the moment, contentment, I think, is a big one. I'm glad we're aligned here. We haven't inner happiness.
I love the being in flow and contributing. I think we're going to be talking a bit about that, Andrea. That's great to have that there. Doing what's most meaningful, accepting all of our feelings and what is while doing something positive for the world. Jenny's here. That is fantastic. Yes, we're going to be talking about that, definitely. Thank you very much for sharing that, Jenny. Freedom of choice and movement, living in flow. All right, I think we've got our peoples here. I think we're okay. So we're going to be talking about this idea of redesigning for happiness in 2021. And given what 2020 has been like, I kind of feel like more than anything, we need a bit of intentional approach to happiness, because I think we are facing, have been facing, and will probably be facing a lot of challenging times, not only in life, but also in businesses. Businesses are struggling. So we'd like to kind of talk about some ideas that we have around what it means to redesign for happiness. Kind of the 5 things that we're going to try and cover, and we're conscious about time. We all, as well as telling you some stuff and giving you some ideas, we'd love to hear your questions as well. So we're going to try and keep an eye, and maybe Shamash, if you can point out any questions that we might miss as we're talking about this stuff, that'd be great, so that we can actually respond to any of those questions. And so Laurence is going to...
Just a tip for everyone: if you share in the chat, click on panelists and attendees, so then everyone can see whatever you're sharing. Sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you very much, Shamash. That's great. Cool. So yes, we are going to be looking at how we can redesign for happiness in this coming year. And there were a few things that we wanted to cover. Matt, I think you must have designed this, Shamash, on purpose, because setting clear intentions, and one of the things that he was covering was about intentions, is one of the important things that we want to be talking about. Do you want to show Laurence, all the different bits that we want to cover, and then we can just like talk through them. What Jenny was talking about, accepting uncertainty, is another thing we want to talk about. Finding your flow, not doing it alone, and that's a real important thing. And core to actually why Laurence and I are in business, and contrary to what a lot of people may think, is actually remembering to have fun just like really enjoying this journey as much as possible. So, Laurence, should we kick off by this idea of what we mean by setting clear intentions?
Yeah, totally. Well, I think one thing we've learned running our business or businesses over the years and working with a lot of entrepreneurs is, particularly at the moment, I think there's a lot of uncertainty, which we'll tackle in a second. But if you don't have at least an idea of what it is that you're looking to achieve, then I think you can often get taken off course by, well, other people's ideas, your lack of self-belief, the world as it is at the moment, kind of landing something in your lap that you're not expecting. So I think the idea with setting the right intention is not necessarily knowing exactly what the world's going to look like in the next 12 months or even few months, but really just having an intention of what it is that you want to either achieve or a way you want to be. Like Matt said, how is it you want to be in the world, or what is it that you want to push forward, and what's sparking your curiosity? So these are things I think we can think about rather than necessarily, I've got a plan, I want to action on the plan, and everything's going to go sort of to that plan. From our experience, it's less about that and more just having a kind of maybe a foggy view, but at least a view on what it is you want to be doing.
I think one of the challenges, whether it's in life or business, and I think when Laurence was alluding to this idea of being sidetracked, is sometimes a lack of clarity and then lack of commitment. And without that lack of commitment, we don't do the things we're going to do. But it's hard to commit to something when we're not clear about what we're doing. And one of the people we've met on our journey of the Happy Startup School is a lovely guy, Charles Davies, who has this process of thinking about clear ideas. And what I've learned from him is that the more that you're able to visualize, and I think this is part of the exercise that I felt with Matt, the more you're able to get that clarity as to what you would love in the world. It might not happen, it might not be exactly the thing, but the more we got that North Star, the more we're able to say yes and no to the things that are going to help us get in, go in the right direction. And that for me has been a powerful learning rather than sheep walking or sleepwalking through the years, which has served me for the past 46 years fairly well. But at the same time, I think more and more intention in my life is something that's going to give me a stronger sense of purpose and meaning. And that's something I'm more and more appreciating in our work, and also in with the people that we're helping as well.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll add to that is it's when we talk about having clarity or knowing what your vision might be, that those things can be very difficult, especially if you're trying to reimagine your work, or if you run a business, you're trying to maybe pivot or persevere with that if things are difficult at the moment, or maybe you're looking to start something new or just move towards something that's calling you. It can be daunting really to kind of try and think of that vision. So one thing we found really useful when we try and get people to do in our programs is to think of a mantra, something that you can own and live every day, rather than something, a big vision that you have to action on, something that actually helps you make decisions. I think that's the hardest thing, I think, in life and work, is to know what are the right choices to make that are going to push us towards a happier future, both for ourselves and for other people that we're serving. So being able to come up with a short phrase that helps you to kind of move towards where you want to move to, but grounding you in today. Like, what are the words or the phrases or the things that are going to help you make those decisions that are more aligned to how you want to work and how you want to live your life.
Cool. And I think for me, this kind of leads on to the next idea about accepting uncertainty, because we can create amazing plans or craft, very clear visions about what we want in the future. But as this year has shown us, shit happens and things just get in our way, or we get distracted, or we then need to find a way of actually making, keeping on course. And for me, the mantra is really important in terms of just sensing into what's needed right now, rather than trying to overthink and overplan where we need to get to next and what we need to do next. But also in that moment when it's like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen next. And I get this a lot. It's like trying to accept that uncertainty, and a lot of the time people say getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I'd say I can't do that, and that doesn't make sense to me because that's an oxymoron. But really realizing actually the world is pretty uncertain, and all you have to do is just as I'm trying to get used to, is just going with the flow, not holding too tightly on how it needs to be or how it should be, and kind of like responding to how it is. And I think we're in the right crowd for that, Laurence, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. I was just sharing some examples of mantras. A few people were asking about those. The book I've shared is "Does It Make the Boat Go Faster?", which essentially is a mantra in itself, but the book is a story of a few Olympians, rowers, who are looking to get focus for their difficult days. And I think that's the thing with the mantra for me, is if it can help you push through those days where you're not feeling motivated, to actually think, particularly in their cases, does it make the boat go faster? Should we go to the pub? Probably not. Should we get in the boat and do the hard work? Most likely. So thinking long term rather than short term is really important.
Yeah, and one of the ones that we've been very attached to is the idea of effortless impact, and you put that there as well, Laurence. And
yeah,
and I think it relates to what Matt was talking about, wasn't it? It's how we want to be, not necessarily what we're going to do. And this kind of reminds me of the days when we first started our original business, which was a web design studio, which we end up turning into a startup studio, helping businesses basically start up online. And it was never about the big agency or the kind of the global domination. That was the standard route of travel for most agencies, but it was more about how that business felt for us. And it was very much how we came to building the Happy Startup School, because ultimately what we wanted to do was have that sense of being in a business where we were with friends and people we liked and we enjoyed our work. And essentially we were optimizing for happiness and not necessarily profits. So that's my reflection on how a mantra can guide you, or if that feeling can guide you in business.
Yeah. And likewise for those that are running businesses. I mean, we were inspired by Tony Hsieh, and Tony Hsieh from Zappos, who sadly passed away recently. We had a nice discussion with Shamash about that recently, and his book was called Delivering Happiness, and that was also a mantra as well as almost a business slogan and driving purpose. And I think that's where we're really interested, is this overlap between what's inside us and what drives us individually, but also what can inspire others, whether that's a team or a community, or even your audience, your tribe, that you're looking to buy into what it is that you're trying to do.
And as well as Tony Hsieh and his Delivering Happiness book, another book that really inspired us was The Lean Startup. And this was this idea of how do you build a business in an environment of extreme uncertainty. You're not 100% sure who your customers are. You're not 100% sure what the product is. And also, you're not 100% sure if you actually like the business you're going to build. So there's a lot of variables there. And so it's very hard to plan very clearly about what the next step is. So everything is a guess. Everything is a punt. And everything essentially in that place of uncertainty is an experiment. And that's where the intention comes in for me. It's like, you're going to say, does this work? Not because it has to work or else I'm a failure. It's like, is this something, did I make the right assumptions around this? Is this something I'm going to like? Is this something other people are going to like? Is this something I can do well? And what you put out into the world and the things you create are just tests, rather than things that people are going to validate or say are good or not good. They're all experiments for you to essentially discover more what you can deliver in terms of value to the world. And so I think that period of accepting uncertainty is also playing with it, using it, being part of that uncertainty.
Yeah, and I think particularly at the moment, there's, it seems crass to say it, but there is an amazing opportunity to play with ideas when, some of the tools that are around now weren't around even 2 years ago. There's so many amazing ways to put ideas out into the world, whether it's a business, a new line of work, a side project, a charity, whatever it is you're looking to do. We've got access now, being able to be at home, and probably at home more than we want to be, having access to all these tools, which will help us, like Carlos said, experiment and develop this, not just the kind of practical side, but also the mindset needed to not attach our kind of success and well-being to the success of an idea. And I think that's one thing that we'd love to see more of, is people being able to put ideas out there without feeling like the success of it is going to impact on their own well-being and self-worth, and actually saying, this is an experiment. It probably won't work, maybe it will work, but I'll learn something that I can apply to whatever I do next, and maybe that will set me on a path where I meet someone and randomly it creates another idea, or I collaborate on a project together. So I think it's really important to try and be really care about the work we do, but also not be too tied to the outcome of it, and see this journey as part of that experiment, really.
Mm. And I think this relates to what we were talking before about our mantra, this idea of effortless impact. You're going towards somewhere. Sometimes you're not 100% sure what it is, or such a big, hairy goal that you're not sure if you're going to ever achieve it. But if you stay in that place where you are most effective, and when we talk about effortless impact, it doesn't mean that you don't do anything. It means that you are just being. You're just in the flow of your own sort of zone of genius, doing the work that you love doing in order to make the outcome you want to create happen. And so that for us leads into this other aspect, is finding your flow. What is it that, and playing, when it means playing to your strengths, is not necessarily what you are good at right now, is what is it you would love to always do? What is it you lose yourself in? And how can you use that as a way to deliver value and create benefit and impact in the world?
Absolutely. And I think one of the things when we talk about flow and zone of genius, I think the one thing that stands out for me is energy, in terms of what is it that you have energy to create, to put your heart into. Because it could be things that, if you think about, I guess, what society teaches us, do the things we're good at, but often those aren't the things that give us energy. Sometimes they are, but sometimes they aren't. And so when I think of flow, I think of what is it I have energy to do? Because, we could each have a list of things that are maybe on our list or that we want to pursue, but if half of them aren't things that we have energy to pursue, then they won't happen. Or if they do happen, they don't happen with the same passion. So I think it's really important to just focus on what is it that you actually have energy or get excited about, that probably signals to you that that's something where you get flow, or where you feel like you can be in that purple patch where time stands still and you're doing your best work.
I saw the film Soul the day before yesterday. It's an amazing film. I wasn't sure about what it was going to be like, but there was this real bit about talking about people who were in the zone, who find flow, and it's like a spiritual experience. It's something just detaches you to a sense from the rest of the world. And imagine doing that as a job. Just like you are basically using entrepreneurship as a journey to more spirituality, and what that would mean, not only for your sense of being in the work, but also the quality of your work and what kind of positive impact that's going to be. And so, finding that flow, I think, and finding ways to find that flow is key, I reckon.
Yeah, I don't think it comes through experience. I mean, a lot of this stuff, I'm sure we've all fumbled our way through a career or, jobs where we're maybe not in our best kind of role. And then I've certainly found the hard way through what does it I actually love doing? And actually, am I able to say no more? Because I think that's at the heart of this, is if you end up doing things that are other people's ideas or shoulds, then you end up not having time for the things that actually give you that energy and help you find flow more often. Yeah.
We're very easily dragged pillar to post by other people's needs and not knowing whether they align. And I think this is part of what, for me, is the benefit of having a mindful approach to business, is understanding, essentially, or being able to observe what is pulling you in a certain direction, not just mindlessly following what someone tells you to do, but actually sensing into, okay, how does that make me feel? What does that mean in terms of where I want to go? Am I just being robotically following someone, or am I being intentional and saying, in a very compassionate way, saying, no, I don't want to do that because it isn't something that aligns with what I want to do or what I need to do. And so for me, coupled with the intention, being able to sense into what gives you flow, and then be able to say, no, I don't get flow from that. I'm going to hand that over to someone else. And having people that we can hand that over to someone else, or being able to collaborate with people who can share that journey, is another aspect of this. And for in terms of redesigning for happiness, not doing this stuff alone is key.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to talk a bit about that, Laurence?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, one just thing when you were talking, because I was thinking about the idea of saying no, and our friend Graham Alcott shared something recently on a call, which was amazing, which was the idea of letting small bad things happen. So ideally, if you've got a big yes, to say he's writing a book or has been writing a book lately, things will drop off, and you'll end up either saying no to things that maybe you feel like good things to do, but actually you don't have time for, or they won't help you pursue that bigger yes. And so I think that's a really powerful sort of metaphor for if you want to achieve something this year, thinking long term and something that you want to pursue. Unfortunately, you have to let maybe yourself and other people down, which leads on to what you were saying, this idea of not doing it alone, and collaboration, which collaboration, whether it's in terms of working with people, whether it's in terms of working closely with your customers, what we call your tribe. And I think these days, when we think about clients or our audience or even our bosses, we would hope that the world's moving more towards a more holistic approach to business and work, where there isn't a clear line between employees and customers and community members. So many of us now have these different interests and get involved in projects and ideas that aren't necessarily our main thing. So seeing your support around you and the people you support as being integral to what you do, we found that it's almost impossible these days to do anything worthwhile on your own, because you'll miss out on opportunity. You'll probably suffer mentally if you're spinning out, with your own ideas and not getting that support that you need. But also there's amazing opportunities now. If we myself and Carlos are now well in our 40s, and I think when we started the Happy Startup School, probably just before we were turning 40, I don't think we'd ever imagine we meet some amazing people, Shamash included, who have inspired us and now become good friends. And I think that's the beauty of doing business this way, is that you actually not only build your tribe and build the support around you, but also have an amazing network of friends and collaborators who can become useful for you, but also you can become useful for each other and inspire each other to do great things in the world.
At the core of this, in terms of this idea of happiness and redesigning for happiness, is a pillar of, for me, specifically around happiness, is connection. We are, as human beings, wired for connection. And without that, I think we lose some of that spark, lose some of that purpose, lose a lot of that meaning. So whether you are in work, and I'm taking Joanne's point about it, while we're talking very much around business and redesigning for happiness in business, ultimately, at the core of every business, at the core of every initiative, is a person or two people. And those are human beings looking essentially to find more meaning, purpose, and happiness in their lives. And some of them find it through doing work and creating businesses. But ultimately, the core things we're trying to do is find connection, do something that feels like it's purposeful and meaningful, and grow and learn. And I've found with our community, I've done the most learning and growing through connecting with others than I have by reading a book or following a YouTube video or trying to learn a new skill. Learning, connecting with others, sharing experiences, talking, sharing the hard times, as well as offering advice to help someone move forward. All of that just adds, I think, to our own sense of a place in the world, because we're actually contributing to other people's lives by being ourselves, not just by creating things. So whether it's in business or life in general, I think this idea of not doing it alone is this idea of reaching out to people who accept you for who you are. That means also knowing what you stand for. And this is part of that mantra at the beginning, is like, what is your mantra, not only in business, but in life? What is it that you are looking for? What is it that's important for you? And we talk a lot about that within our community and tapping into those needs. And then with that, you can connect to the right people who you can support, and they can support you back.
Yeah. I think the other thing is we've found, we've had people join our events or come to our programs who aren't owning a business, they don't run a business, or maybe think they want to, but end up not. And I think actually surrounding yourself with people who are doing really interesting things, creative projects, is really inspiring. Whatever you're doing, whether you're just running a family or it's just you solo, I think it's surrounding yourself with people who are challenging the status quo, who are, creating a better world like this event, then that's hugely inspiring, because you rub off on their energy. So I would argue, and we've seen that actually it's about values match more than anything. This idea of, a worldview that is more open, that is more connected, and ultimately, moving more towards a happier world. And I think business is part of that. We believe it has a huge role to play in that, given not all of our leaders have our best interest at heart. So I think it's kind of a grassroots movement that, whether or not you're running a business, I think is great to be part of.
And how you find these communities, how you find these people, for me, it's you need to put an intention out in the world. First, you need to make a commitment to that. I want to be able to connect with other people, but also it requires a bit of a vulnerability, because you need to be able to say, I need this, I need these people, I need to find some help. And that's also where that deep connection happens. And in this world where we're connected with feels like billions of other people, it can feel a bit overwhelming where to look. But that's why we talk about, when you tap into those values, tap into that intention, you start to create these filters that actually block out a lot of the stuff that you don't want, the toxic stuff out there, and the right people start to appear. And there's no magic silver bullet, I believe, around this, other than being very clear about what you need and what you want to create and who you want to connect to. And while it's a challenging time, and that's challenging to do, building businesses is challenging to do, trying to get away from, if you don't have work and you're trying to look for work, this whole journey can be a bit challenging. 2020 has really shown us how difficult life can get when we're not with each other. But even if you are striving and you're trying to work hard at these things, I think fundamentally, and this is what Laurence and I have really embraced in our work and whatever we do, is make sure you try and have fun along the way. It feels heavy. You're trying to make a big impact. You're trying to make a change in your life that's quite hard. But if you can find ways to have fun, then I think that's where you can tap into something more than just solving a problem or creating a business.
Yeah, and I think it's an amazing reminder for all of us. I think that, yeah, particularly when times are hard, we can feel guilty if we want to put fun at the heart of what we do. But I believe, yeah, finding that sweet spot where what is fun for you is what the world needs. As Shamash has done with this, not just this event, his background, then I think that's an amazing place to be, because, you know, we're almost 10 years into this journey, and I don't think we would have been still here if we hadn't put fun at the heart of our values and work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could you share how people could kind of follow your community? I think loads of people would benefit from getting a taste of what it's like.
Sure.
Well, funnily enough.
Well, so yeah, I'll share this. So first, actually, I'll share that. That wasn't what I meant to post, but that was the 5 things we shared in the talk. So I'll share. There's a free lesson here if anyone wants to take this on a little further. It kind of follows on nicely from Matthew's session. It's basically writing a cheery postcard from the future. It's a nice, simple, fun exercise that you can do. There's a short video on there, and if you go on there, you can do that. And then I'll share the link to our main website, which links to all the things we do, our online community, as well as the programs and events that we run. And we've got tons of free resources on there, videos from our past events, if you want to go check those out.
I saw Nicola was asking about the podcast. If you just search for the Happy Entrepreneur podcast, you should be able to find it on Google, or I can share a link that you can just click on straight away.
Hundreds of happy entrepreneurs out there, or you guys are the main ones.
We're the one. If actually, well, maybe it's just me in my own Google bubble, but when I do a search for it, we pop up.
Oh, that's great.
There's loads of unhappy ones, but I think
there you go.
There's a link to a podcast. That's a good way. And then on your website, is there something that they could download? Is it the Canvas or something?
Yeah, so we got a free ebook which has got our Happy Startup Canvas, which is a structured way to look at your idea. It doesn't have to be a business, could be just any sort of idea or project or new career that you want to push forward, and that's got our Canvas as part of that. So yeah, go on there, put your email in, and you'll get that.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Thank you so much. I thought really wonderful community orientated way of sharing as well. So I thought that was really wonderful. I think some of your fans have come along here as well, who are part of your community that I've shared, including me.
Oh, yeah.
So that's really great.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I'll also share those links with the email that we'll send to everyone who signed up for this event too. But thank you so much for giving up your time on New Year's Eve.
Thanks, Shamash.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you everyone for supporting this event. It's fantastic to see so many people connected here.
Yeah.